Well, good morning, Algonquin College. My name is Sharon Galashan, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Muskoka, Ontario. It's the weekend here, and we are all venturing outside, but we wouldn't do so without mitts, a scarf, and coat, the equipment we need to succeed. And it made me think about the topic I'm going to share with you today. And that topic is caring for families and children with chronic illnesses in a classroom setting. As educators, it's really about being the mitts, coat, the scarf to these families who need your comfort, who need your support to succeed in any program that you're part of. And I have a few tips today that I hope will equip you going forward in your new paths or in your retraining that will help you be that pair of mitts, that scarf, that comforting supporter for these families that enter your classroom. So let me share a little bit with you about why our family knows so much about chronic illness. Several years ago, my husband was diagnosed with something called Guillain-Barré syndrome. While he made a pretty good recovery, he was left with permanent nerve damage to one side of his body. 2 years ago, our oldest daughter was diagnosed with another autoimmune disease, type 1 diabetes. So we have some really first-hand knowledge on what it's like to function as a family with chronic illnesses and what it's like to work in relationship with our education system, doctors, and supporters. So the very first piece of advice I can give you is create and cultivate an environment of truth and love. What that looks like is creating an environment where parents with children who have chronic illnesses can come in and feel welcomed, they can feel heard, and they can feel safe so that they can be transparent about where they're struggling, what their needs are, and how they can be supported. If they feel like they have you as a non-judgmental listening ear, you're going to create a beautiful relationship that you become a safe person to not only the parents, but the child too. And that's a really awesome thing that we have seen develop firsthand with our kids. It also means responding to that transparency with honest feedback. Some educators hesitate to give kind of bad news because they feel like parents already are dealing with so much. But really, it's quite the opposite. If you can be truthful and loving with your feedback about a child's day, it actually equips a parent to recognize markers that maybe they thought were only happening at home, and now they see it's happening at school, so they can work with their pediatrician or their community support worker to better support that child. So you can still give that feedback, but maybe surround it with a bit of praise. I think it's called the sandwiching effect, where we start with praise, we give the constructive feedback, where maybe it involved an incident report or some sort of not so great part of the day, and then we sandwich that with some more positive feedback. And parents just really need your honesty. It's one of the best forms of love you can give a parent, is to give honest but loving, truthful feedback. The second piece of advice I would give you is don't be afraid to ask questions. Questions are an awesome way to show a family that you're engaged, you're leaning in, and you want to learn more to support their child. It is so helpful when an educator comes to us and says, is it normal if Amelia seems sluggish throughout the middle of the day? Is it okay if I try this with Amelia to help keep her moving, to keep her blood sugars normal? Those sorts of questions, those open-ended questions, or questions that have research into them, are so helpful to us as parents, because it shows, again, that you want to know more about the child's condition so that you can support them, remember, being that equipment, and so that you can walk with them and become a safe person and a resource to them. Asking questions is never a sign of inability or weakness. It is only a sign that you as an educator want to be more supportive and a better part of their team. My third piece of advice would be consider transitions early and often. And what I mean by that is kids with chronic illnesses, medical conditions, physical disabilities need more time typically. They need more time to transition from one activity to another. And you, as their supporter, as their educator, their EA, whatever your role is, have an opportunity to foresee the next step and help them prepare for it so they can stay on track with all the other kids. So let me give you an example. As a type 1 diabetic, our daughter needs extra time before she does any transition. She has to check her blood sugar. In some cases, she may have to eat something, or she may have to give herself insulin, while other kids can just transition. So considering transitions early and often gives these kids one leg up. You become their safe person, their supporter, who is allowing them to keep up with the rest of the day by knowing ahead of time what they need to prepare for. So really it's three things that I, as a parent with a child with a chronic illness and an educator in training, can share with you that will help families and children with illnesses and disabilities function and succeed in your program. Cultivating an environment of truth and love so that communication can be fluid and helpful. The second is not being afraid to ask questions and learning, because as educators, we're always supposed to be learning. And the third, a little more hands-on, is considering your transitions early and often so that you can give your students one step ahead to keep up with their peers. I hope these things help you in your future paths. I hope it's a tool for your tool belt, and I really hope that you will not hesitate to ask questions after you view this if you'd like to know more. Thanks so much for your time, Algonquin College. Good luck to everybody in your next semester.